black artists from the past to the present day have been imitated and duplicated, but not always given their dues. Even European artist Pablo Picasso was influenced by the motherland. His works reflect the sculptural designs of ancient African art. The famous old wrought iron works of New Orleans is tangible and solid proof of what blacks brought here from ancient art legacies of Africa. The identities of the dark-skinned slave laborers had been lost in obscurity, but the art form lives on. Juan de Pareja was born of African-Spanish ancestry. Born in Spain and sold into slavery in the early 1600s. His master was a famous painter, and Juan became his pupil, soon becoming a great artist in his own right. Edmonia Lewis was the first black sculpturess of note. Encouraged by abolitionists to sell her work, they eventually convinced Edmonia to study her craft in Rome, Italy, where she lived out the remainder of her life, only returning to America to show or sell her artwork. Another foremost sculptor was Augusta Savage. Born in Florida, she gained great notoriety in Europe, especially in Paris, France. Her sculptures won her many commissions and prestigious awards. Augusta became director of the Harlem Community Arts Center. University professor and administrator, architect Hilliard R. Robinson received his training at universities here and abroad. He was contracted to design renovations for blighted Washington, D.C. housing throughout the 1920s, 30s, and 40s. Painter and sculptor Richmond Berthet moved north in the 1920s to pursue his artistic studies. Berthet won numerous fellowships, medals, and citations of honor for his artwork, depictions that called attention to racial injustice. Thomas Green Bethune, or Blind Tom, was a musical genius born in Georgia prior to the Civil War. Mastering the piano as a very young child, he soon surpassed his teachers. Bethune's master exploited the talent of the sightless prodigy and amassed vast sums from Tom's outstanding compositions and playing in the U.S. and throughout Europe. Broken by years of overwork and underpay, Tom died in poverty at the age of 61. The literal arts have their roots in Africa, where the old historian, the griot, told the many metaphoric fables, as well as taught the people about their ancient history. This verbal literature was passed down from generation to generation. Without a doubt, the arts have always served as a great liberator of blacks around the world, the ultimate expression of mind, body, and spirit.
Frances Allen Watkins Harper was a poet, novelist, lecturer, and essayist who became active in the anti-slavery movement. Her work supported racial justice, women's rights, and temperance. Robert Pelham was one of the founders of the newspaper The Plain Dealer in Detroit, a pioneer in the growth of the black press. James Edwin Campbell attended Miami College in Oxford, Ohio. It was as a newsman that he made his chief contribution in the literary world. Campbell became a staff writer for the Chicago Times-Herald. His alternate career was as a teacher. T. Thomas Fortune was a fearless black journalist. In New York City, Fortune used his papers, The Rumor, The New York Globe, and The New York Freedman, to fight political corruption and bigotry against blacks. He also wrote 3 books concerning racism in the United States. William Wells Brown, famous historian of the 1800s, was born in Lexington, Kentucky. he wrote a number of books on the black race. In 1959, the New York Drama Critics Circle Award was presented to playwright Lorraine Hansberry, the first black to receive this award for her acclaimed work, A Raisin in the Sun. A leading figure in the Harlem Renaissance, Countee Cullen was not only a poet of immense popularity, but an educator in the New York public school system. Claude Brown overcame a troubled childhood and went on to become the author of Man-Child in the Promised Land, which chronicled his early wayward life in Harlem.
They taught and inspired their race. They created institutions of learning where there were none. Many of these men and women fought for the right to an education, and once obtaining it, sharing the quality of what they had learned with others. They realized that knowledge was power, whether self-taught or acquired through formal training. But learning how to survive was possibly the best education of all.
William H. Krogman, professor in liberal arts, was the first black president of Clark University in Atlanta, Georgia. Richard T. Greener was the first black to graduate from Harvard University. Greener taught classical literature, ancient languages, and metaphysics. Fannie M. Richards was a teacher who fought against segregation in Detroit, Michigan schools. The case was taken to the Supreme Court. James Milton Turner was one of the first black teachers to be hired in the state of Missouri. Turner founded Lincoln University in Missouri and was also U.S. Consul to Liberia. In this algebra class at Tuskegee Institute, most of the students were much older than the typical students today. Born in Cincinnati, Ohio, and grandson of Northwest explorer William Clark, Peter Humphreys Clark was a prominent leader in establishing public schools in Ohio. More than just an educator, Clark concerned himself with the problems of the laborer and became a leader in the working man's party, a forerunner of organized labor. Blanche Kelso Bruce founded a school for blacks in Lawrence, Kansas, and another in Hannibal, Missouri, in the post-Civil War era. Serving in the Senate, Bruce took special interest in rights for blacks, Native Americans, and Chinese immigrants. For over 5 years, Fannie Jackson Coppin worked and studied at Oberlin College in Ohio. With a firm resolve to become a teacher, when the freedmen poured into Ohio at the end of the Civil War, Fannie started classes teaching men and women to read and write. She later became principal of the Institute for Colored Youth in Philadelphia. Born in Virginia, John Mercer Langston received his education in Cincinnati and Oberlin, Ohio. His career touched upon many areas of life. Langston was a city councilman, president of the Equal Rights League, member of Oberlin's Board of Education, school inspector general of Freedmen's Bureau, dean of Howard University's Law School, minister resident to Haiti, and president of the Virginia Normal and Collegiate Institute. Gifted and proficient in many languages, high school teacher William Sanders Scarborough taught Latin, Greek, and mathematics. In 1877, Scarborough became a linguist professor at Wilberforce University in Ohio. Upon graduation from Atlanta University, Richard Robert Wright Sr. entered the field of education to eradicate illiteracy amongst the freedmen of Georgia. In 1891, Wright founded Savannah, Georgia State College. After retiring from his administration of the college, he launched the very successful Citizens and Southern Bank and Trust Company in Philadelphia. Jacques E.J. Kapteyn was an 18th century philosopher educated in Holland. The African was trained in the arts and theology before being sent to Africa to perform missionary work. Scholar and writer Gustavus Vassa was a brilliant African who led an adventurous life, traveling the world before settling in England. School principal Ebenezer D. Bassett was the first black to hold a diplomatic post abroad. In 1869, Bassett was appointed minister to Haiti by President Ulysses S. Grant. John B. Russwurm, first black to receive a college degree in America, founded the first black paper called Freedom's Journal. Eventually, Russwurm went to Liberia, Africa, where he served as superintendent of schools there.